What's up, guys? It's Parallax Abstraction, and this is Retro Flashfoward, showcasing gaming's roots in the current generation. So I got something really cool to show you today. We are taking a look at a newly released PC roguelike game that is very, very heavily inspired by the 6 Degrees of Freedom concept pioneered by Descent back in the early days. Yes, indeed, this is Sublevel Zero, and I only heard about this game a couple of days ago. It slipped under my radar, but man, it is really, really cool. So I've actually never done a video on Descent, which I really need to rectify at some point soon. But for those of you who don't know, Descent was a game where you had full 6 degrees of movement. It was a space shooter, kind of. And you could move your ship on all planes, up, down, left, right, diagonally, whatever. And your goal was to navigate a sort of mine maze, get to the power core, destroy it, and then escape the maze before the core blew up. And this has the majority of those concepts, but applies roguelike elements to it. Now, roguelike games are a dime a dozen these days on the PC, to put it mildly. And it's a genre that I respect, but I'm not normally that into, but very much not the case here. I am really digging this, so let's just dive right into this here. So you can choose a number of different ships to start with, but to unlock any but the basic one, you need to hit some pretty crazy conditions. These are going to require a lot of replay and a lot of skill to hit. As you can see, I have not hit any of them yet, even though I played a few hours of this game. So you're going to... there's a lot of challenge in this. The thing with roguelike games is they have 2 pillars that they ride on. Well, 3 really. One is permadeath. So when you die, that's it. You get 1 life, and when you're out, it's game over, and you gotta start the whole thing over again. The second is randomly generated levels, which this game does have to a certain degree. And the third is that they are balls hard, which this doesn't start out that way, but it gets there. So I'm going to show you here. So this game does have a story. It's pretty threadbare, but it's kind of interesting. Basically, it's well in the future. The universe is a mess. There's wormholes appearing everywhere, moving stuff around. The universe is basically in a hell state. And you are someone who ends up finding this station out in the middle of nowhere, and you get trapped in it, and your hope is to rebuild the drive core that will allow you to get home, and also maybe find out what the heck happened to the universe in the process. That's basically it. It's a neat little framework. I mean, most people don't play roguelikes for the story. They're more mechanics-focused games, but it's kind of neat that they put that little thing in here, so... Alright, here we go. So, loading Sublevel Zero. Now, you may see that there's only 6 levels there, and you may be like, whoa, that's not very much. Yeah, well, I have not gotten past the 3rd level, and I've put a lot of time into this. This game requires a lot of replay and a lot of skill, so it's not nearly as short as you may think. So, yes, welcome to Sublevel Zero. So, when I talked about 6 Degrees of Freedom movement, here's what I actually meant. Let's take this guy out first, and then I'll explain some of this. So 6 Degrees of Freedom means you get to do this. You get to move up, down, left, right, all around, and you can do a barrel roll if you want. So, yeah, that's the idea with this. So I am playing with an Xbox 360 controller. This game actually does play fine with mouse and keyboard. It apparently also plays fine with things like flight sticks, which I do have one of those for Elite Dangerous, but I haven't bothered to set it up. And apparently this game's going to be getting VR support at some point in the future, too, which is very interesting. So... this is what makes this unique among a lot of roguelike games, is that you have this ability to fly in all 3 dimensions, and it gives you a lot of freedom of movement. It's a little disorienting, to put it mildly. If you're used to first-person shooters or games that work on much more of a linear plane, this can be a little overwhelming, but you get used to it. The controls in this game are super, super tight, and they work very, very well. I've been very impressed with that. The original Descent series played not bad, but it was definitely not the easiest thing in the world to get used to, especially since it had much more traditional inertia and gravity mechanics, so you really had to get used to that. This game doesn't have that. It's much more simple. Like, when you let go of the joystick, you just stop. In Descent, you had momentum, and you had to counter thrust and all that kind of thing. That's not really the case here, so they've streamlined that, which I like. But the response is very, very nice, and it plays very, very well. So your goal is to get to the power core, destroy the power core, but the one thing that they did not copy from Descent, which I think is a good thing, is that you do not have to escape the level once you destroy the core. Now, a lot of old Descent purists are going to go, well, that's a real bad omission. And I can respect that. That was a cool thing that they did in Descent, but it was also really, really frustrating because navigating the Descent levels was very tricky. And if you pretty much didn't memorize your route after you destroyed, or while you were on your way in to destroy the core, you were basically boned. And you could have an entire level's progress wiped simply because you didn't get out at the end. This game is hard enough as it is, so I don't really mind that they did that. Though maybe if someone will release a mod or something at some point, or an additional gameplay mode where that mechanic comes in, that would be pretty cool. So, like roguelike games, you also have an inventory, and there is a crafting system in this game, though it's kind of basic. So, as you can see here, you have 2 different gun slots, 2 different missile slots, and a slot for your engine and your hull. These can all be upgraded either with items that you find in the world or that you can craft. Crafting is not really what you would think, which is that you get a lot of base components and forge new weapons and items out of them. All it is it's fusing, basically. You can take items that you have in your inventory and combine them together in order to make other things, some of which are better, some of which are not. So you can see here I have 2 things that are craftable at present, and it shows the items that would be consumed upon using that. This can consume items that you have equipped, so you have to be careful for that. And you also need nanite credits to do it, so sorry, I bumped my mic. And I do not have enough to craft anything at the moment, but we may get to that point. So you can do that. You can also pick up different weapons. There's only a few variants of weapons. So there's bullet weapons, energy weapons, missile weapons, and a couple of other ones that I wish there was a little more variety in this, because most of the weapons are just variation on a theme, but it also means that you don't have to manage too much at the same time, so it's not so bad. So you can see here this compares the statistics of what you got versus what you have. When you find an item in the world, you can either store it in your inventory, which does have limited space, or you can hold a button down in order to equip it immediately, which is kind of nice. So this is a standard engine that I picked up. As you can see, I already have a standard engine, so it makes no difference, but you can hold on to this for crafting purposes if you want. So you really need to keep track of that. When you're in any of the menus in the game does not pause. It's like Dark Souls that way, so you don't want to be going and managing your inventory in the middle of a battle. You've got to wait for that downtime. Enemies do not respawn, so when you've cleared out a level, you're fine. It's or when you've cleared out a room, at least, you're fine and you can take a breather. So yeah, you've got missiles, which are on one trigger, and you've got your guns, which are on another trigger. Ow. And if you have multiple weapons equipped, like this, I have the autocannon and the pulsar to start, you can switch between them with the shoulder buttons, or the bumpers, I should say. The shoulder buttons are what fire. So it's pretty good. The only thing I find a little weird and confusing, also, yes, there are these little audio logs throughout the world. I'm not going to stare on that. It's just more a little narrative back filler, which is kind of cool. The only thing that's weird is that the weapon displays, you can see the pulsars on the left and the missiles are on the right. Well, that's backwards from the triggers. So the right button fires the gun. So you gotta... I've made some mistakes and switched the wrong weapon sometimes because I just inherently want to press the button on the same side. So that's a little odd. You can also pick up repair kits. So you see my health up there. I've taken a decent chunk of damage. So I have 2 repair kits right now that I picked up. If I use one, it will heal you to a certain point slowly over time. If you use more than one in rapid succession, it will heal more health and faster, which is really, really cool. But you got to be careful about that because you don't want to, you don't want to run out all your health kits too early because you may need them later. So you got to be careful about that. Now, one thing that people tend to do in a lot of games that have inventory and loot and whatnot is they do have the "but I might need it later" sort of, I guess you call it a fallacy. Basically, people will pick stuff up and then not use it because they think they might need it later, and then in many cases they never end up needing it later and the stuff went to waste. You do not want to have that mentality in this game. You might with health kits, but beyond that, this is a proper roguelike game. Now, some people have used the term roguelite to describe some other games in this genre that have... Usually what that means is that the game has like a persistent type of element to it. So either a persistent experience level that gives you passive bonuses or items that will persist between game sessions, or things like if you have a weapon that you're not using, you can store it and equip it in your next run. Things like that. I have nothing against those kinds of games. Here's the core. But this game is not like that. Anything you don't use, you lose. So if there is no incentive to hoard weapons or anything like that. If you get something good, use it straight away and get yourself a better run. That's the way you want to do it. That's more of the traditional rogue element, and I like that. I think that's cool. So this is actually the core here. So you can actually continue to explore the level if you want to find more loot and you haven't found everything, or if you just want to move on, you just can blow this up and move on. So one of the other things in Descent games that was often a problem is you could very easily get lost, and the map was not very good. That is not the case here. This is possibly one of the best designed 3D maps in the history of video games. I'm not kidding. Like, look at this. It gives a fantastic, very easy to understand 3D representation of the entire world that you can move around, you can zoom in and out, you can check everything. The doors are very clearly marked. It's great. I have never gotten lost in this game because anytime I get even slightly confused, I just come back in here and I can very easily move things around to find where I am and where I need to go. This is awesome. This is one of the best features of this game. I think this game would be a lot more frustrating and a lot less fun without it, if you ask me. I think this is really good. You'll be looking at this screen a lot, and I dig it. I think it's absolutely wonderful. Kudos to them for putting the real effort into that. Alright, so we're going to destroy the core here. And what happens when you do this is it blows up. There's the flux drive component that you needed. You get a nice little boon of bonuses. And then it turns into a portal, which when you step in there, you go to the next level. Now, I said that one of the core tenets of roguelikes was that the levels are randomly generated. This one didn't seem it. The first level is very easy, and it's almost more of a tutorial, so I wonder if this one is like the one that's not generated, Sublevel Zero. Let's see what Sublevel 1 looks like. So here you go. You finish the level. It gives you some little stats on things. It shows you your accuracy. There are some challenges to unlock ships that are tied to that and whatnot. Now, you may see a save and quit option here. This is nice. When you finish a level, if you've got to go, you can save, bail out, and come back later. This save is not permanent. So once again, you die, that save goes away. So this is not a thing that lets you start a run again later on. It's just allows you to come back later. But once you've done that, the save is gone. So you die in this game. That's the way roguelikes should be. So let's see if this is more randomly generated. Because, yeah, I just noticed that the first level doesn't seem to change. If this doesn't have randomly generated levels, that would be a lot more of a bummer. But I'm certain it does. I'm certain that was in their marketing material. So, actually, yeah, this already looks a little bit different. So let's go see here. So you get the core idea of this. You can move around, you can do stuff with your weapons. The other thing I haven't shown very much because I don't use it a lot is if you click in the left stick, you have a little afterburner thing. This is unlimited, but as you can see, there's a heat meter underneath my health, so you don't want to overheat yourself, but there's no fuel limit or anything like that, so you can use this as much as you want, and different engines have different afterburner speeds. I picked up a hull, I think it was the Scout hull at one point, that just was... Whoa! Hello, where'd you come from? I picked up an engine at one point. I think it was the Scout engine that just was insane how quickly I moved. I really like that. So this is the Razor Firebolt. That's the Brutal Firebolt, which does a lot more damage, but I don't know if I have any Firebolt weapons. So I may have enough to craft something, so let's check this. So yeah, craftables. Here we go. So actually, I can combine the Clumsy Firebolt and a Flamethrower that I have to make a Plasma Caster. Alright, let's do that. And actually, that will free up a space because I used an item for that. So let's go in here and... So that's the Brutal Firebolt. So I have 78 shots for that. So that's the other thing. Every weapon you get in this game, from energy weapons to... Ooh, interesting. Every type of weapon you get in this game has limited ammo. There is no unlimited ammo in this game. There are perks you can get sometimes that will give you a little bit of ammo regeneration and whatnot, but you've got to pay attention to that, and ideally you want to have a weapon of every type in your inventory ready to go in case you need it, because you can put yourself in a position... That looks like a little Game Boy. That's cool. So when you're reading this, it does pause the game, so you don't have to worry about clearing a room out in order to be able to read the backstory, which I appreciate. That's cool. There's also little chests here you can see in the levels that give you mostly just a big nanite boost and ammo, which is cool. So yes, darts, plasma, missiles, and energy. Those are the major weapon pillars. So yeah, it is possible to completely run out of ammo in this game if you're not careful. I've done it, and when you do, you're in a bad way. You can actually kill enemies by running into them, and one of the ships you can unlock in this game actually is for ramming enemies, but it's very, very risky, especially against the wrong type of enemy. You really don't want to do that. Okay, we're going to use that repair kit right away. There we go. So you have to be very careful about that, but ramming is a valid tactic, but yeah, you can screw yourself real quick if you're not careful with that, and it has not worked out very well. So you've seen a few different enemies in this. Again, much like the kit, they are variations on a theme for the most part. It's... Again, much like the kit, I do wish there was a little bit more variety, but the enemies do have different behaviors. Some of them are fairly straightforward. They'll just sort of hang out and shoot at you like this guy. There are enemies that will actually attempt to ram you, which you have to be careful about because that can really screw you really, really quick if you're not careful. There are other types of things. Again, I haven't gotten past the 3rd level, so maybe more types open up as you go. I think this is the beginning, actually. It's a good time to use that boost. Whee! So you want to watch out for that, but it's, yeah, a little more variety would have been cool, but this is a relatively inexpensive game, so, and hopefully we get more content patches or DLC later, and actually if somebody did want to make a mod for this game that had the... added in the ability to have to outrun the destroyed base core, that would actually be kind of cool. Make it real Descent roguelike, actually. I think that'd be kind of cool. So there's the bomber hull. Now, the bomber hull is pretty neat. As you can see, it has higher ammo capacity, higher inventory space, and higher hit points. So it's pretty much better all around than the starting one that I've got. And now I can carry more stuff. You can also pick up hulls to do things like... that you can, if you hold old hulls, you can actually use those as crafting components to make yourself better hulls, which is often pretty useful. So, anything better we can make here? So I can actually make either a minigun combining an autocannon and a pulsar, or a razor minigun combining a razor pulsar. So you see, these are all generally variations on a theme. The variety is not super huge, but it's kind of cool in its way. So the minigun's not really worth it. The razor minigun might be. Yeah, let's do that. Oh, I don't have enough nanites. Yeah, nanites are something that you get in abundance, but you also need a lot of them to craft anything of real worth, so you've got to be careful about that. So that's the ramming guy there, but a missile to his face puts a stop to him real quick. So you sort of get the idea here. I really like the look of this game. This was made in Unity, which I don't know if Unity's capable of doing voxels, but this almost looks like voxels. It's, but I really love the neon-y look. I love the lighting. I think the lighting is really, really nice. And I actually really like the production value in this. It looks like a more detailed version of something like Heavy Bullets, which was another roguelike game that I actually really enjoyed as well. Heavy Bullets was more of a first-person shooter. That was another roguelike I've played a lot and that I quite enjoyed. This kind of has a little bit of that look, but with a more advanced lighting system, which I think is really cool. And the soundtrack is also nice. The soundtrack is, it's basic, but it sets the mood very well, and it's not obtrusive. It's kind of like, oh, where am I here? Okay, so I need to go back this way. See how good that map is. It's sort of a combination of a little sort of light electronic mixed with chiptune stuff. I actually really like it, and I think it fits with this very well. And like I said, it's not loud, it's not obnoxious, it's not in your face. It's just kind of there and provides a nice little background, which is very nice for something like this, because this is a game where you have to concentrate. You have to be thinking about a lot of things at once. You're managing your inventory, you're trying to be careful in combat to make sure that you don't get hit by the enemies. You need to think ahead in terms of what weapons and upgrades you might need later in order to survive the higher levels. You've got to watch your ammo count. You've got to do all this stuff, and you really need to stay on top of things. So a more obnoxious, heavy, beaty soundtrack can really throw you off. And this is not like that, which is something I really, really like. And as I said, when you're reading an audio log, the game pauses. But when you're in the map, or, oops, I overheated there. When you're in the map or checking your inventory or anything like that, you cannot pause the game, or the game does not pause. So you need to really, really pay attention and make sure that you're in a safe spot before you do that. Otherwise, you can get yourself screwed really, really quick. And those are the elements of roguelikes that I do enjoy. But some games that are more hardcore about it do things in a way I don't like. And like I said, I have nothing against those games. There are people out there who love super hardcore roguelikes that are just absolutely brutal, and I have nothing against those, but they're just not for me. I find they get too frustrating and it kind of sucks the fun out of it. This combines the best elements of everything. It is challenging, to put it mildly, but it you know, you move quickly, the combat is quick and frenetic, and you don't you're never feeling severely encumbered. You're never in a position where you're like, oh god, if I move 1 inch the wrong way, I'm gonna get killed, and that's gonna be the end of it. It's not that rigid. You have the freedom to really approach things in different ways, and because of the 6 degrees of freedom movement, battles can be very dynamic and very fast paced, which is what I like. It doesn't feel like a slow plodding strategy game, which a lot of roguelikes can do. And like I said, you may dig that, and if you do, cool. But this is much more my speed. But yeah, I'm actually... Ah, there it is. I was going to say I'm a little bit less. So just so you know, yeah, that first level appears to not be randomly generated. This one definitely was. This is very different to the sub-level one I have played at other times in the past. So unfortunately, I am way off course here. Or am I? Wait, where do I... Yeah. Where I actually needed to go was pretty much right off the beginning. Actually, wait, am I down here? Okay, no, actually, I'm very close to where I need to go, so... Like, you see how quick that was? If this was Descent, I'd have been staring at that map forever and just going like, oh god, what do I do here? And we need to go down this way. Yes, back to near the start. Alright, cool. And as you can see here, this area has been... This area is quite a bit different than where we were before, and... Yep, now we're in a whole new area, so you get the idea. But yeah, if it hasn't been made very obvious by this point, I love this game. I think this is absolutely fantastic, and if you liked Descent, or if you're into roguelikes, I would... Aha, key card. I would highly recommend picking this up. It's relatively inexpensive. It's about, I think it's either... on launch week, I think it's $12 US. I think it's normally going to be 15. And you can get this from Steam, or if you want to get it from Green Man Gaming, where you're actually just buying a Steam key, there actually is a link in the description below this video. If you click on that and buy through that link, a tiny little piece of your purchase goes to help support my channel, which I would actually really much appreciate. And also, yeah, that's a rammer. I hate those guys. And Green Man Gaming regularly has promo codes, so you can almost always buy this game cheaper from them than you can on Steam, but all you're buying is a Steam key, which just unlocks there anyway, so you're not losing out on anything. So yeah, if you do like this game, I would recommend getting it through there if you want. I would really appreciate the support. But yeah, this game, however you get it, this game is great. It's a great roguelike. It's a great Descent-like game, which we really need more of. Not a lot of people made those kinds of games. Even though Descent was really popular, no one, we haven't seen a lot of titles like that, and I wish we would, because it's a really cool concept. And this has been a lot of fun, and I'm probably going to put quite a number of hours into this game. I think I'm going to definitely try to get to the end of this. So, highly recommended, and it wears its retro inspirations on its sleeve, but it does them great respect and great. It does a really good job in utilizing those older mechanics in a way that is fresh and modern and really a lot of fun. So I highly recommend it. So yeah, that is Sublevel Zero, developed by Sigtrap and published by Mastertronic. Yes, some of you old school guys may know the name Mastertronic from back in the Commodore 64 days. It's not really the same company anymore. But they're still making some interesting stuff, as you can see. Aha, here we go. We're almost near the end of level 2 here. Yeah, this is out on the PC. I don't know if console versions are planned or not. This would be really good on consoles, actually, so I hope they are. And apparently it's going to get VR support at some point, too, which I could see being really puke-inducing, but who knows. But I think this game is a lot of fun, and I highly recommend it if you're a fan of either of the genres it represents. My name is Parallax Abstraction. Thank you all very much for watching. If you liked what you saw here, please consider liking the video and subscribing to the channel. Those would help me out a great deal. And once again, if you want to buy this game for yourself, if you buy it from Green Man Gaming via the little referral link in the description box, you can get it slightly cheaper, and a tiny piece of your purchase would help support the channel, which would be really, really awesome. So, thank you guys once again for watching, and I'll see you next time. Time to detonate a power core. Take it easy.